Hi, I want to do a quick chat about a recent video that was up on Nino Rodriguez's channel. His channel recently had a guest on called Stewart Swerdlow, and he claims he's an insider warning of coming Earth changes. So it looks like it went up there about 13 days ago, I believe. And I just wanted to make some comments about it, about some of the stuff he said, and also I'm just reviewing comments from people about some of the content that he was talking about. I'm just going to make it fairly quickly, maybe 10 minutes or so. So he talks about previous civilizations that have come and gone, which I believe is correct. I believe that we are about the 8th civilization. The previous one before us was Atlantis and Lemuria. Atlantis being a global civilization, and Lemuria being a regional one. I think it was a continent in the Pacific, between Japan and North America. From what I've gathered about that, information about that, that disappeared due to a war, an intergalactic war, where the invading star race, if you want to call it that, I believe they were from Orion, actually, from the Orion Empire. They came in and took over Earth. They took over Atlantis. So Atlantis used to be in good hands, and then the bad ones came in and took over. And in the process of that, the planet next to us at the time was called Tiamat. It was an ocean planet, bigger than Earth, had a lot more water on it, and that was blown up. And all the water flooded the solar system. It came down to Earth, flooded Earth, 40 days, 40 nights of rain. Venus and Mars, they got badly harmed as well. The bad ones that were down here, that came down and took over, they were the invasive race. I believe they were reptilian of nature. They got trapped down here. What happened is the good guys, they brought in the lunar satellites, which is the moon. And then that emitted a dominant frequency around Earth, a 3D frequency, to keep them trapped in here. So they kind of walked into a trap. So they achieved what they wanted to achieve, but in the meantime they were trapped. And the only way you can leave 3D Earth matrix, which is the artificial dominant frequency, is to raise your consciousness. And that was the whole idea. It was basically to put them in jail until they'd reached a high enough consciousness where they could leave. And they weren't, anybody that comes in and doesn't realize that, they're stuck as well. So I think I said in my previous video that souls incarnate in here for the challenge to see if they can leave. Or most of the time before they come in and know they can anyway. I don't know if that makes any sense, but supposedly it's absolutely dead on. The moon is a ship, a combat damaged biosphere ship that was hauled in to do that, to create an artificial dominant frequency on the planet as a quarantine. So they couldn't get out and cause any further danger in the solar system or even in the galaxy. Um, the Kuiper belt, he was talking about that as well, Stewart Swerdlow. That is the remnants of Tiamat, the planet that was blown up. That's the asteroid belt. Also, he talks about the previous civilizations, about the Atlantis, Tiamat, and that's where the Book of Genesis comes in. So the creation of the world by God on the seventh day was after the flood had happened, after the flooding had stopped from Tiamat. So it's basically a post-apocalyptic book. And then life was given to Adam and then Eve after the apocalypse had happened. The planetary destruction, where basically this planet it took on a huge amount of water from Tiamat, and then it also span on its axis. I hear that Australia used to be the North Pole, so it flipped. So the Genesis. Genesis means genes of Isis. So Eve wasn't a person; it was a race, a hybrid race that was hybridized from the Adams, which is an Adamic race. So the Eves were liberated. That race was liberated out of the Adamic race. So the Adamic race was a slave race that was mainly underground under Turkey. I believe that there's a huge city in Turkey. It's underground. They were underground dwellers. That's what I've read upon. And then the Eves were an awakened race. The DNA had been awakened, and they split. They went to Lemuria. And then he talks about this solar flash that's going to happen. I believe it's coming. It's supposedly part of this DNA activation, similar to what I was just talking about the Eves. That there's going to be a split and an opening of our third eye. It's basically like the Kundalini rising. So if you look in Trump's Oval Office, there's a lot of gold around, and there's gold on his fire mantle above the fireplace, and it's actually resting on its side. There's DNA with like a flower opening in gold, and the golden age, I think what it's talking about is precisely that. It's the opening of the third eye. So Stewart was talking about the neutrinos, a wave that will come in, and then everything within the planet, within that band of neutrinos that bombards the planet, will increase in frequency, and that affects your DNA. Apparently, around your DNA, apparently the tiny little spheres, your DNA, and it's memory. So it contains all memory of all the incarnations that you've had, including ET alien incarnations that you've been before. And there's a sheath around your DNA. It's called a myelin. I believe it's called a myelin sheath. And when those neutrinos come in, because they're light waves, spiral light waves, the myelin sheath is removed, kind of like unpeeling an orange, I guess. And then you suddenly have this awakening of memory. And that relates to your third eye, your crown chakra, I believe it's called. So you basically become like superhuman. And I think that is largely to do with the Great Awakening and the jump that we're going to do, the quantum leap to a higher frequency. I'm just looking through the comments here. Some guy called Mr. Salison 9871 on Stewart Swerdlow and Nino Rodriguez's recent video said that we're parasites. We were made in the image of God. No, we're not parasites, and we're basically souls that have incarnated in here for the experience in human vessels. So that's kind of like the opposite. Actually, the parasites are the ones that are gelled down here with us. These fallen angels. They're parasitical consciousness, apparently, that harvest our emotions. And then it talks about, there's other comments on here. There's the one true God that will not let anything or anyone thwart his plan. And that I don't believe there is a God, a singular God. We're the gods, we're creators, we're fractals of the source. So there is no God. There's a source field, a potential field, where creative energy, creative consciousness is manifested. But I don't believe there is a God. And also the Jesus character, I believe, is fiction. It's an invention from the Roman Flavian dynasty. So I think that's all for today.